Hello and welcome to Healthy Talk, empowering your wellness one conversation at a time. Today we're discussing essential strategies for estate planning, IRAs, RMDs, year-end giving, and charitable giving. Joining us today is Shellie Grabau, Edward Jones Financial Advisor and President of the Boone County Hospital Foundation Board. Shellie is going to share her insights to making the most of your financial planning, especially in ways that support charitable organizations like Boone County Hospital Foundation. Shellie, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
To start, could you tell us a bit about your background as a financial advisor?
Sure. Let me start by saying I am a hometown girl. I graduated from Boone and I still live and work here. So Boone is my place to be. I started my career officially in teaching and pursued higher education with a master's degree, which then led me to change my career 11 years ago and came to Edward Jones. During those 11 years, I have held various leadership roles and volunteer roles that help empower others to be their best self.
That's fantastic. As the year end approaches, are there any key financial considerations you emphasize for your clients?
Yes, there's many things to consider towards the end of the year because obviously December 31st is a big date. So things to look for. I always say start with a self-assessment. First, look at what goals you set out to do for the year of 2024 and then see if you've achieved those goals. And when you start assessing financial goals, also look at your tax situation. Are there things that you can do to help offset some of the tax liabilities that are out there, such as adding to your FSA or HSA, or do some tax loss harvesting, even getting your RMD sent out as a qualified charitable donation. So those are a few things to look at, not to mention other things like a Roth contribution or even a 529 plan contribution. So many things to do at the end of the year.
Lots of things. Busy time.
Yes.
Estate planning, I'm sure, can be very overwhelming for many people. For those who are considering estate planning, what are some foundational steps that they should take?
Look for a team to help you. You'll want to have a team that includes a financial advisor, an estate planning attorney, and a tax professional. So find a team that you are comfortable working with.
Are there any common misconceptions that you often hear about estate planning?
Yes, there are many misconceptions when you begin talking about estate planning. And most of the time, what I find is people get overwhelmed and then they find themselves with analysis paralysis, too many things, too many variables, too many what ifs, too many choices. So the thought again is find a good team that you want to work with and just start and just make the first step. There's many checklists out there to just start. And so kind of like eating an elephant, one bite at a time. First and foremost, again, do an assessment of what you would like to see have happen and then begin communicating with the right people to start making your plan. Everyone needs to have a plan of how they would like to have their estate or their personal belongings, their assets, their home, their bank accounts. How would they like those to be dispersed upon their passing?
And I feel like having that in place too alleviates a lot of stress for those of your family members that are left here.
Right. It does. It relieves a whole lot of stress. It relieves that compounding effect because not only are they dealing with the loss of you, now they're dealing with the loss of whatever you may have managed, such as you may have been the one to write the checks out of the checkbook, or you had all the passwords to the websites that did the bill pay. That becomes a compounding effect of the loss. And so having that all in order and ready to go is a great thing for anyone and everyone.
Is it once you have it in place, it's done, or is it something that should be updated?
I tell people that they should look at their estate plan once every 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
Life, as you know, throws us some curves along the way, and don't be afraid to revisit that just to make sure it still says what you want it to say.
Okay. How can families handle conversations around estate planning? I'm sure it's not a fun conversation to have and to kind of divvy up stuff.
Right. It's an uncomfortable conversation to have, and nobody really likes to think about their loved one being away from them. It really just is a communication process of just sitting down and talking about the when it could possibly happen. This is what I would like to see happen. Mm-hmm. Communication is the biggest key here. And if you sit down around the table, all in the right mindset, with the right heart, I think a lot of things could be solved just having that conversation around the dinner table.
Transparency.
Yep.
Help alleviate stress of something that could be a very stressful time. So let's shift a little bit to IRAs. Can you break down the difference between traditional and Roth IRAs and how each would impact estate planning strategies?
Yeah, IRAs. There are a few different kinds, but the most common is the traditional IRA and the Roth IRA. Now, the traditional IRA, I like to think of the word traditional as one that the way we've always done things,
Yep,
right?
sure.
Way back before 1998, really not that long ago.
No, I just not.
There was only one IRA, and that was a traditional IRA. And so that is what most people know traditionally to be a pre-tax, before-tax IRA. And so we call it a traditional IRA. And then the Roth IRA in 1998 with the Taxpayer Relief Act did come into about. And then that allows people to put monies in after tax. So I had to remember for my test, Roth has an O in it. So the word post also has an O in it. So post-tax is a Roth IRA.
Okay.
Also, the traditional and Roth IRA, how it might impact the estate planning strategies is in 2019 with the Secure Act of 2019. The rules for inherited IRAs did change. The required balance to be distributed is now within 10 years for a non-spouse. Okay. So that can play a big deal in some of the estate planning as well, because your inherited IRA, so let's say I pass, my children get my pre-tax traditional IRA, they then have 10 years to make sure all of those monies that are saved in there are distributed out over 10 years. So that can cause, again, some more tax scenarios. Typically what we see is when a parent passes, they're in their 80s and so forth. So the children are in their higher income earning years. Mm-hmm. So they're late 50s, early 60s. And now they also have to take monies out of an inherited IRA. Again, that puts them in a higher tax bracket. Okay. So working with a financial advisor, a CPA, and an attorney can also help them understand their options on what to do with that inherited IRA. That's something that's new that people may not be aware of, but there is that 10-year rule with that Secure Act of 2019. So make sure you ask the questions and you pay attention to what happens to that IRA.
Okay. Another important aspect of financial planning is charitable giving. So what role can IRAs play in supporting charities, especially now as we get to year end?
Charities can benefit from the traditional IRA because with a RMD, so someone who is 70 and a half and older, they have choices on what to do with an IRA.
Okay.
And so gifting your IRA to a charity is something that they can absolutely set up with their financial advisor to do. And so a qualified charitable distribution, known as a QCD, they are a non-taxable gift up to $105,000 adjusted annually, and it can be provided to your favorite charity, and it also helps you then reduce your taxable liability for the year and even your taxable estate.
Could you explain a little more about the potential tax benefits of donating directly from your IRA?
So when you donate to a qualified charity, then that amount that you've donated is not taxable for that given year. So on your 1099 would show that you made a distribution out of your IRA. So let's say $10,000 you decided to donate to your favorite charity. That $10,000 you would have had to claim as taxes, as income for the year, is no longer part of your filing of your taxes. It is then taken off. So your required minimum distribution is lowered by $10,000, and therefore you don't have to pay tax on that $10,000.
For those considering charitable donations from IRAs, are there any deadlines and paperwork they need to be aware of?
Yeah, I would say, obviously, December 31st is the major cutoff and deadline. But I always say, don't wait. By December 15th, try to have most everything done so you can enjoy the last,
You're
weeks.
not stressing out at Christmas.
Of the year. There are things like if they need to sell something in the IRA, maybe it's invested in a mutual fund that does have a trade date plus a settlement time. And so that's a delay. So if you think you can sell on December 31st and get it to where it needs to be, you really are ready dropped the ball a little too late. So don't wait. Make sure it's done by December 15th and make your wishes known. Here in Iowa, we could always have a lovely weather event as well. And if a check needs to be mailed, you want it there by December 31st.
So you mentioned RMDs a little bit. So for listeners who aren't maybe familiar, could you explain what an RMD is and why they're significant especially at year end?
An RMD it stands for the words required minimum distribution. When you hit a certain age, it could be anywhere from 70 and a half all the way up to 75. They have backed up the dates and ages accordingly. So if your birth date is between 1949 and 1950, you have an RMD at age 72. If you're 1951 to 1959, then your RMD is at age 73. But if you are born 1960 or later, then you will have an RMD at age 75. When you hit those ages, that traditional IRA or any other pre-tax monies that you have put away during your working years, you now have to pull out of that account, and then it is considered taxable income for you for that year. And so the IRS does have a certain qualifying denominator that they divide your account balance by in order to determine what your required minimum distribution is for the following year. Most people have someone helping them, like a financial advisor, and so they know what their RMD is for the year. There is a penalty if you do not take it by the end of the year. That penalty has just been changed. They changed it from 50%, which could be very painful if you forgot to take it, down to 25%, right? So back in 2023, there was a new policy put in place that it is now only a 25% penalty if you forget to take your RMD if you're beyond one of those ages.
Okay. So it's better, but it's definitely an incentive to plan ahead.
Definitely.
As the year comes to a close, what tips would you give to individuals wanting to make a meaningful financial impact through their charitable giving?
There are many ways to make meaningful impacts and long-term impacts, not just from your RMD and to a qualified charity. But first, again, look at what you're passionate about.
Okay.
You know, what is your heart saying you want to do and how you want to leave a legacy, not just with RMDs, but with estate planning too. There are ways that you can begin to leave a lasting effect, right? And so it may start with RMDs, but RMDs have the ability not just to go directly to the charity, but it has different strategies. You could put monies into a donor advised fund or a charitable fund, also to leave like a family foundation and a lasting gift for many, many years to come. So all those things can be set up by year end. And I know Edward Jones specifically, we've got a minimum of $10,000 to get your own donor advised fund started and up and running. Typically, those will give out about a 5% donation off of them every year for as long as the donor advised fund is up and running. So it is many things to get in place, as well as you may want to look at some other tax strategies because the standard deduction is over $29,000 currently for a married couple filing jointly. $29,000 is a lot to overcome if you want to do itemized deductions. So itemized deductions would have to be over that $29,000. So sometimes a tax strategy could be where you cluster all of your charity donations in one year, including your RMDs, including your donor advised fund, into 1 year so that you are up above the $29,000 mark, and then you can itemize and get beneficial tax deductions off of those donations. Many things to look at by year end, many things. So again, working with a good financial advisor and tax CPA and an attorney, let them help you.
Let's talk a bit about the Boone County Hospital Foundation and the impact charitable giving has on that organization. How does the foundation benefit from contributions through estate planning and IRAs?
Well, I think one of the greatest ones is that money you give to the foundation in Boone stays directly here in Boone County. And that is what I think one of the greatest benefits. And 100% of it goes to the foundation, and therefore it goes right back to the Boone County Hospital. Yeah. So that's just awesome.
The foundation's mission is to provide resources to Boone County Hospital for equipment, programs, and services that otherwise would not be available. And we said the foundation is committed to improving healthcare in our community because as a nonprofit, it reinvests all its excess revenue to enhance the hospital for patient care. So donors want to align their financial planning with their charitable goals. How can they be assured that their contributions to the foundation are making long-term impact?
Well, we've got some great information out there, right? Like this podcast, right? That talks about it, right? And our annual report. So be informed on how what we do here is making an impact. Ask some of the people here. Ask some of the nurses nurses, doctors, what are some of the things that the foundation has done to make their life better here as an employee? I know the foundation has been around since 1993, so 31 years now. Since we're a critical access hospital, it's very important that we stay here. So the strength of our foundation is very important to the growth. So knowing that you're giving back to such a strong foundation who has a great track record and history here, and all the things that we do to help provide things that the hospital needs and wants, I think they can be reassured that it is making a very big impact.
For sure. I know it's been fun at our Harvest Festival every year. We've done our Fund a Need, where we've gotten to bring some pretty big equipment to Boone County Hospital. One year it was 3D mammography, helping get that, and an ambulance and echocardiogram equipment, renovations in radiology. And it's amazing to see the impact that our donors can help us with, and it's here for years to come. As the board president, what else excites you most about supporting the foundation's mission?
As I said at the very beginning, I'm a hometown girl, and growing up here and continuing to live here, I want to see Boone continue to grow and become a community that has these services and provides these services and keeps growing, so that, I have grandkids now too. They have access to things that they need as well, right here in our hometown. It really excites me to be able to raise money, add to the foundation, and then the foundation gives back to the hospital, things that make Boone a better place to be. I'm all about empowering others, and the foundation definitely empowers the hospital to help others, as we all know how important our health is, especially after going through the last, 4 to 5 years. Health is very important, and so keeping this hospital here so that we can keep Boone and Boone County healthy, I think is a very exciting thing to be a part of.
Yes, it's such a blessing to I'm just going to go down the street. Or we've got clinics in Madrid, we've got clinics in Ogden, all in our county. And it's great to have that local care for our community.
Yes, it is.
What advice do you have for listeners feeling overwhelmed with financial planning as we approach the end of the year?
There is a lot to estate planning, to financial planning, to taxes. So I would say there's many things out there. Obviously, we have the internet that has a lot of information out there, but find a credible website to find a good checklist of things that you should pay attention to. Be a good student, look and research information, and of course, ask your team. Ask your financial advisor, ask your CPA, ask your attorney, is there something I should be aware of? Or do they have a checklist available for you to make sure you've done all the things that you need to have done by the year end?
One step at a time, but using your financial advisor to help you through each of those steps.
Absolutely. They're a great resource.
Where can listeners go to learn more about estate planning, IRAs, charitable giving?
Well, I know Edward Jones has plenty of learning tools on our website, and so feel free to go to edwardjones.com and or reach out to any of us here. There's 4 offices here in Boone, so any of the 4 of us also can be very helpful.
Perfect. Do you have any final thoughts for those planning their end of the year finances?
Well, I always say focus on what you can control. There's many things out there that feel like it's out of control. The things you can control is finding out what are some things that you can do with a checklist, or what are your options. So your research.
Fantastic advice. And as a reminder, the needs of our hospital are limitless. So if you are interested in making a difference, you can reach out to Sarah Kloot-Bain, who is our foundation director here at Boone County Hospital. Her number is 515-433-8470, and her email is sbehn@bchmail.org. You can also learn more about the Boone County Hospital Foundation by visiting our website, www.boonehospital.com/foundation, or follow BCH Foundation on social media. Thanks again, Shellie, for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you to all our listeners for tuning in today. Until next time, stay informed, stay healthy, and keep the conversation going with Healthy Talk.